Okay, hi and welcome to the fifth installment of the Academy, the Yeshiva, the Academy of Shem and Aver. This is the fifth installment, and this week we are going to focus on exactly the nature of the Academy of Shem and Aver. Now, the last couple weeks we were involved in discussing the different levels of the academies of Shem and Aver. It got a little bit complicated, and we said that in the land of Israel, there was the Academy of Shem and Aver in the city of Tzfat, where we're broadcasting from tonight. And outside the land of Israel, there was the Academy in Nineveh, by the offspring of Shem, his offspring Ashur. Now, the idea going in was that there were only two academies of Shem and Aver, Tzfat and Nineveh. Now, I was asked to make a chart of the different levels of the yeshiva or academies of Shem and Aver in terms of teaching Torah. And before we get into the chart, we're going to explore the different avenues of the different levels of yeshiva, as we're going to find out today there was not only two academies of Shem and Aver. In fact, we're going to say there's more to the tone of at least 6, going on 7, and maybe in the realm of the infinite. Now, when I say the realm of the infinite, we're drawing upon Song of Songs, King Solomon, Shir Hashirim. It says, of all the people in the world, this is in chapter 6, I think verse number 8 or 9 in Song of Songs, about the offspring of Nachor and the queens and all of the nations of the world, and that the Noahide nations are measuring in as a nation without number. This aspect of a nation without number is relative and united with the academies of learning all over the world. Now we're going to explore why are there in fact academies all over the world. And when we get into the text in about, I'd say about 30 minutes from now, we're going to say that Adam, the original Adam Arishon, Adam of the Garden of Eden, Adam, he decreed where in the world there would be an academy of learning. We're going to get to that in a bit. So the entire world has been dedicated from the inception of creation where the academies of learning would in fact be. So that's quite a different perspective than what we were going on the last couple of weeks. We were focusing on the two known academies of Shem and Aver, in Nineveh outside the land of Israel, and in Tzfat inside the land of Israel. Now, to get caught up a little bit, just to backtrack to last week, we said that in Nineveh, or outside the land of Israel, Nineveh was a great metropolis outside the land. It was around, I think, Iraq or Syria, modern day, and it was an offspring of Shem, is offspring Ashur. This was the level of the oral Torah that was applicable to the Torah of Shem of that time. And the oral Torah of that nature was character traits, proper conduct. In Hebrew, this is called derech eretz, the way of the world. It's a way of infusing the 7 wisdoms of creation, math and language, science, rhetoric, all the 7 wisdoms, and how they become divine and holy in the context of Torah, and how to use the Torah as a tool of wisdom. But in particular of maintaining the world, making the world go around, making the world continue to exist. This is called the level of derech eretz, way of the world, which is it's a general term in Hebrew. Literally, it means proper conduct. But it's one of those things that has a connotation far superior than just proper conduct. It's really the laws and theology and practice of the world's continued existence as a divine endeavor. It's Torah, it's practical Torah. It's Torah to live your life, Torah to operate by, Torah to live and to function in the world, so the world is a functioning, proper place. That was in Nineveh, of the offspring of Shem, Ashur. Ashur was the name of the person that came from Shem. Now inside the land, all the time we're going to do a dichotomy. Outside the land, inside the land. Inside the land, as we understood it, was the academy of Shem and Aver, in the north of Israel, in the city of Tzfat, where we're broadcasting from now. As we always say, we're about 1,000 feet from that yeshiva right now, or that academy of learning. And that was the emphasis of Hebrew, or of Aver. Aver literally is the father of Hebrew. Now Abraham is called Abraham the Hebrew in the Torah, right? So therefore, why was Abraham called Abraham the Hebrew? Because here's the word for Linda, the mashpia, the influence of Abraham to accentuate his Hebrew in knowledge of Torah came from Aver, which the word in Hebrew for Hebrew is ivrit, which comes from Aver. And this is why we say that Shem is actually the father of the Hebrews, because Shem was the grandfather of Aver. Thus, in the land of Israel was the aspect of the written law, as opposed to the spoken law. It's the concentration of the commandments, whether it be 7 mitzvahs of Noah, the 8th mitzvah or commandment of circumcision to the offspring of Keturah. There was called the B'nai Keturah, which Abraham married Keturah after Sarah's passing. And they continued the practice of circumcision as Ishmael, her son, was commanded in circumcision. Thus, in the land of Israel was the focus of the written law, to be infused with those that came to Israel, would come to speak that which was spoken, to increase that which is written. And this is a partnership of in the land, out of the land. Written and spoken. Hebrew and, like you say, secular tongue, or the 70 tongues of the world. In Hebrew is called Lashon HaKodesh, the holy tongue. That's particular to the land and the 7 laws, which is why we all have a connection to the 5 books of Moses, which is written and primarily understood in its original language. Yet, the Torah was translated to 70 tongues, because the commentary or the spoken aspect can be in any language to explain and understand the nature of the Torah. So that was where we headed in from last week. To understand that there were the 2 levels of academy, of yeshiva, of academy of learning, Shem and Aver, and the offspring Ashur. Now we're going to really expand the story in a much, much more vast nature. The first thing we're going to start off with is, if you look at the initial letters in Shem and Aver, the name Shem begins with the letter Shin, and the name Aver begins with the letter Ayin. 2 particular letters in Hebrew. Now, all the time, there's a concept called relativity and truth. This is a concept that runs all through the Torah. When we have 2 things that seem to be identical in context, or even out of context, but in a deeper meaning, we can compare the two concepts. So here we have this Shin Ayin, this combination of what is the Torah of Shem and Aver, represented by their initial names. It would be like a person going by his initials. This is called Roshei Tevot, the initial letters of a Hebrew word. For example, if we were to say the yeshiva, the academy of Shem and Aver, we would take the yud, the Y sound of the word yeshiva, with the shin and the ayin of the name Aver. It's a way of what do you call this in English? I think an anagram, like NASA, National Aeronautic Space Association, if that's what it means. It's a way of taking the initial letters and forming kind of a quasi-statement or word or expression to be used in comparison. Now the comparison we're going to draw from here is another Shin Ayin that's a major concept in Torah called Shulchan Aruch, the set table. Now I'm going to read to you a commentary Rashi in the book of Shemot, which is, how do you say that in English? Shemot would be names, or Exodus, rather. That's what it is. In English it's Exodus. And here is what the commentary says in the nature of the Torah on its highest level. Hashem said to Moses, "It should not occur to you to say, I shall teach them the chapter and the law two or three times. I'll just get by teaching it a couple of times until it is set in order in their mouths according to its format, i.e. until they've memorized it. But I shall not trouble myself to make them understand the reasons of the matter and its explanation." Now Hashem is telling Moses, do not do that. You don't just teach it over a couple of times, expect it to be memorized, and move on. What the Torah mandates from us, therefore it says, that you shall place it before them like a set table. Now, here's that expression, the Shulchan Aruch, the set table, and prepared to be eaten from. That is what should be placed before a person. That the Academy of Shem and Aver is this set table concept. That it's the Academy of Shem and Aver where the Torah is prepared and hashed over and refined to the point that there's an entire set table before you, that everybody would be able to feel free to take that which is prepared to be consumed, especially for that person. Now, in Torah, this is called the conclusion. That there's the process of coming to a conclusion, and there is the conclusion. The Torah of Shem and Aver is about really feeding over the conclusion. This is the law on the clearest level. So that basically we can do the law, yet have the meaning and understanding so natural in the law that we can serve God with fulfillment, and not just taking the law in a scantily way and saying, just do this blindly and memorize it as dictation, what you're supposed to do, have no soul in it, no feeling, no arousement of fulfilling the law. That's the antithesis of what we're trying to say. The Torah of Shem and Aver is, I don't know, has everybody seen Willy Wonka? If you remember that in Willy Wonka, there was the girl who ate the piece of gum, that the gum became a full course meal in chewing the gum. I don't know if you guys remember that. So that's the idea of the Torah of Shem and Aver. That at every piece of Torah that they taught, it contained in it the levels of the entire Torah. This is the idea that the Torah is fractal. We know that in science, there's something called a fractal. That there's an image, and from that image you can see all the other images. It's a principle in modern science. You see these graphics. When you take a drop of the ocean, that's a good example. You go in a drop in the ocean, that drop of water contains all the elements of the ocean. And thus, this is what the Torah of Shem and Aver is coming to teach. That in every teaching of Shem and Aver, they have prepared it fully like the set table full of delights of spirituality, that in every bite or taste of Torah of Shem and Aver essentially gives you the entire Torah. And the more we consume and occupy ourselves with the study of this Torah on this level, of all the time, whenever something needs to be refined and clarified, until it's the level of easily consumed, easily digestible, easily maintained, easily available to serve Hashem from that law. That's what the Torah of Shem and Aver was coming to do. Now, the forefathers of Judaism, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they learned from this Torah of Shem and Aver. And we're going to learn today how, basically, the Torah is rooted in Shem and Aver exclusively, and that the Torah of Shem and Aver runs parallel all the way till today, and the essential yeshiva or academy is the Torah like Shem and Aver. Now, the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, did the Avos, the forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, did they in fact really learn from the academies of Shem and Aver? If they in fact did, then the entire basis of Torah from all of time is rooted in the academies of Shem and Aver. And the answer is yes, they did. Now, one question we have to ask ourselves is, when and how did Abraham receive from Shem? This was what we said, I think, in the first class, that Shem suppressed his seed so that the world would produce an Abraham. Abraham, therefore, had a quasi-status. He was a bit Noahide, yet he took the liberty to father the Jewish nation. So Abraham, as Sarah with his wife, he had the Jewish offspring. And when Abraham went back to Hagar, the mother of Ishmael, she changed her name to her Noahide name Keturah, thereby strengthening the Noahide tradition through the offspring of Keturah, which was synonymous with Hagar. Again, she changed her name to show the heightened level of spirituality in being the mother of Ishmael and the Noahides, that for her seed are obligated in maintaining the circumcision, which is, as the Rambam quotes, that is akin to an 8th commandment. Now Isaac, the son of Abraham, will receive the tradition from Abraham, but more importantly, and this is what we're going to discuss today, more importantly, Isaac received the entire Torah from Shem and Aver. Very little is written about in the Torah of Isaac. Very little in the Torah is written about Shem. We put the two together and we find the sources that are not found prominent all over the place. Why? Because they're spoken of very little, but that's where the greatest context and meaning is usually found. Abraham comes along. He discovers certain truths about Hashem and the Torah. Yet when Melchizedek, Shem who went by the name Melchizedek at the Temple Mount, when he met up with Abraham and Abraham blessed Shem, Shem returned the favor derech eretz, proper conduct, maintaining peace and order. Thereby Shem blessed Abraham and then went on to bless Hashem, and he told Abraham, you may have blessed me first, but do not make that mistake. You need to bless God first. Upon this transition of Torah, Shem gave over the entire tradition to Abraham at that moment. Abraham became a priest basically by the rights of Shem. Abraham is charged with having roots in Shem. That bond is never to be broken. Abraham then goes on to father Isaac. Isaac, according to the Talmud, is the first Jew. He was circumcised at 8 days old. His father is Abraham, who received from Shem. Now Abraham then goes back and nourishes the Noahide way as well. He's really essentially an extension of Shem, fathering both. An aspect of Noahide through Keturah and Isaac through Sarah. Now at this point we're going to explain, where did Isaac come to learn the Torah from Shem? It's not written anywhere. Everyone knows that Jacob served Shem for at least 14 years. And an ongoing theme we're going to be discussing is that Shem was served by Jacob for not just 14 years, but 50 years. To the point that the world would become flooded with the knowledge of God through Jacob and through the Torah, the Academy of Shem. So now we have Abraham receiving from Shem, Jacob receives from Shem. What about Isaac? And that's where we're going to start off today, is to really understand how, when, and why did Isaac learn the tradition from Shem. And what we're going to come out of this with is knowing and realizing just how great Shem was, is, and his academies of learning, yeshiva, were and are. This is what Adam, the original man, Adam prophesied of the academies filling the whole world, that he saw that Shem's Torah would become filled with the entire land of Israel, and all the world will be filled with the Torah of Shem. Now let's explain. Sarah, when she became the mother of Isaac, she breastfed Isaac. She was, I think, 90 years old. She became like a 20-year-old, miraculously. She had so much mother's milk to offer, the local mothers came to see Isaac and Sarah. Sarah nursed all the babies, and the babies grew to be fearers of God, God-fearing people. Now, if all the other children became God-fearing, then we would have to say that Isaac himself became God-fearing. In the weekly Torah portion, Isaac is called Pachad Yitzchak, the dread or terror or fear of Isaac. The first question we have to ask ourselves is, why was Isaac referred to as this dread or terror of Isaac? And the answer is, this was the influence, here's that word again, the mashpia. Mashpia means the influence. Isaac was directly influenced from Shem, son of Noah. That Isaac's entire life essentially was orchestrated by Shem. And here is how that came to be. By the time that Isaac was nursing from Sarah, there was a party, says the Midrash. The Midrash is a legend or authoritative story legend of Isaac. It's equivalent to Jewish law. It's law told over in story form of ancient tradition. This word is called midrash, ancient teaching through stories. When Isaac was finishing nursing from Sarah, Sarah and Abraham threw a party, a get-together for everybody of the land of the generation. And the biggest men of the generation came, says the Midrash. The head of the academies, Shem and Aver. By this right of Shem and Aver being present, essentially through the entire beginning of the life of Isaac, Sarah, as a nursing woman who had the ability to influence through her mother's milk, she received the pachad, the terror or dread of Shem. Shem is quite an imposing figure. This is the man that helped build the ark, saved the world, flooded the world with Torah upon entering the new world. He's called Shem HaGadol, the great Shem. And Sarah's a God-fearing woman. So you put two and two together, she receives that influence from Shem's presence. Thereby Isaac is nourished and nursed on the highest order through Sarah as the conduit from the presence of Shem. Again, we see that just as Sarah could affect the babies through her own level of righteousness, all the more so the righteousness of Shem, what he was able to do to Isaac, a young nursing Isaac. The numerical value of the dread of Isaac, Pachad Yitzchak, the dread of Isaac, it means the terror, the tremendous amount of fear of God, is the same value as the verse in the Torah says, and Shem, or it says, in the King of Righteousness, and Malki Tzedek, who we identify with as Shem. And the King of Righteousness, Malki Tzedek, Shem, is the same value as the dread of Isaac, 300. These both have the value of two names of God, Hashem, and the name Elohim. We say Elohim as to not say God's name in its proper pronunciation or respect for God. Yet both of those names have the value 300. Thereby, Isaac was imbued with sublime fear of God through Sarah, but more importantly, through the future instructors of Torah of Isaac. And Isaac will pass it on to Jacob, Shem, and Aver. Now, this is all nice and fine to explain that Shem and Aver were the influence of Isaac by the time he was a baby, and the intent of making Isaac this guarded soul. He spent his whole life in Israel, and his main mission was to make sure that Abraham passed the test of what was called the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, where Abraham was told by God to slaughter his son Isaac. Abraham must pass that test. And only by Isaac's fear that he was willing to go under the knife, literally, so that his father Abraham would have the merit of passing the test. Shem himself was the originator of that test by suppressing his own seed, so that there should be an Abraham, so there should be a nation of the Torah to work side by side with Shem and Aver through all of time. The brotherhood of Noahide and Jewish nation. Two nations in Torah. The true academies of learning through Shem, and the Jewish people learning the Torah in Israel, side by side with the Noahide. Thus you have two parallel streams, Shem and Aver, who their continued existence never stopped. And now you have a newer nation coming out of them, of Abraham, who broke off through Sarah, had Isaac, and Jacob then goes to learn the Torah from Shem and Aver. He will have 12 sons or 12 tribes. The Jewish nation will be established. The Torah will be given on Mount Sinai. But the institution of learning and the maintaining of the Torah, the preservation of the Torah on a certain level, goes back to Shem and Aver. And it's on so many levels we can't even encapsulate it all in one go. And the forefathers of Judaism are rooted in those academies of Shem and Aver. The two are hand in glove. They go hand in hand. There's no separation. But it's the academies of learning, even in Israel, that the Holy Land, and the whole world, that are maintained in the continued existence of Shem and Aver. Let's go into the text. what we're going to read now is, now that we understand that Shem and Aver were the influence of Isaac as a baby and gave him the nourishment just as all the children received fear of God, Shem and Aver gave it a very high level of fear of God into Isaac. The verse is as such. If in your own time, if you turn to the weekly Torah portion, Vayera, it's going to be just after the binding of Isaac, which is called the Akedah. The angel of God calls out from heaven and says to Abraham, "By myself I swear the word of Hashem, that because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only one, I shall surely bless you and greatly increase your offspring." Then the Torah goes on. Abraham returned to his young men, who were Ishmael and Eliezer, his servant, and they stood up and went together to the city in Israel, Beersheba. And Abraham stayed in Beersheba. Now if we look in the Hebrew, the word for returned and stayed. The Hebrew, remember, in the original Hebrew we could learn the concept and then derive it into English. Abraham returned, which is the language of, this is improper English on purpose, he yeshivad. Like he went to yeshiva, or he had the establishment of a yeshiva. Yeshiva is the Hebrew for academy. So in Beersheba, off the page, let's go off the page. In Beersheba, Abraham endeavored an academy of learning Torah. The first question we have to ask ourselves is, what academy was in Beersheba? Who was the academy? Where was the academy? Why was it an academy? Now Abraham, we said, received the tradition from Shem and Aver. Isaac now fulfills his mission to help Abraham pass the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. The entire reason that Isaac was separated from Ishmael was so that Isaac would get serious in his dread or terror of fearing God, because Isaac's name actually means to laugh. So it's kind of a contrast. His nature is to laugh, and Ishmael was a tremendous brother to Isaac. Sarah saw that Isaac needed to buckle down to invoke this level of reverence or awe, terror and dread. That once Isaac got into learning Torah, it was on the expense of Ishmael. And that's something that happened in the past that is very hard to understand. Why Ishmael had to leave. Why Abraham and Sarah threw out Ishmael and Hagar. The fact is that Ishmael and Isaac were very close. But the nature of truth goes beyond our personal feelings. Isaac had a mission to help his father succeed the binding of Isaac. As the Torah of Shem would only be passed on through such an endeavor. Thereby, after the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, Ishmael comes back. What a fantastic story. Ishmael comes back, and the two brothers are brotherly again, and when Abraham dies, we learn from the verse that Ishmael repented, Isaac and him became brothers again. It's a prophecy for the future, that when Ishmael stops his fighting, the son of David will come as the offspring of Isaac. These are very difficult topics to understand. Why Abraham would have to sacrifice his son, and why he would sacrifice essentially his other son, Ishmael, kicking him out. But Shem went through the same thing by suppressing his seed so there would be a greater revelation in Abraham. But now after it's all done, Isaac now has done his job, and he can now go on to learn without the exclusion of Ishmael from the scene. We read the verse that in Beersheba there was an academy of learning. And now we're going to get to our main topic. What other academies of learning existed in the world? Now, the first question we have to ask ourselves, why do we say that the academy of Shem and Aver is the academy of Shem and Aver? Maybe it's not Shem and Aver. Maybe Shem had his own yeshiva or academy of learning. And maybe Aver had his own academy of learning Torah as well. And in fact, this is exactly what we're going to say. And before we get to Isaac, we'll jump ahead to Jacob. Jacob, in the Torah portion Vayetzi, Jacob went out after he received the blessings from Isaac. Jacob left Beersheba. And the commentaries over there say that in Beersheba was the house of Aver, to the exclusion of Shem. So Shem and Aver's academies are not together. Now we can start to understand there was a whole enterprise going on here. A little bit different than the story we've been told. Israel itself is one big empire of academy through Shem himself. And it goes out into the entire world. So when the Shem and Aver, or Shem at least, when he got off the ark, and the Torah is quiet about what Shem was up to. Shem was spreading Torah. He offered the Torah for 400 years. Nobody took until Abraham. Shem needed a nation to accept the Torah that he was teaching, but not only teaching. He was rooting it, grounding it into the world so that the Torah would never be uprooted from the world. And let's not forget where that Torah came from. Shem, son of Noah, and his grandson Aver. The Torah that would be taught and learned through the Jewish nation, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the 12 tribes, as taught and nourished and developed from Shem and Aver. Now let's go back to Isaac and understand how, in fact, did Isaac learn the Torah from Shem and Aver in real time, not just suckling from Sarah. Although that was enough to get him started. Just the very presence of Shem radically changed the existence of Isaac. Now I'm going to read text. In Beersheba, the story of Abraham and the binding of Isaac took place. But Abraham didn't want to bring with him Isaac in Beersheba. And the reason why Abraham did not want to send or bring Isaac with him in Beersheba is that Abraham sends Isaac to the academy of Shem, son of Noah, to learn there the Torah. Now here's another play on words. All the time that we come across the word there, There in English. In Hebrew, it's spelled Shin Mem, which is very, very ironic. There in Hebrew can also be Shem, name. Sham, there, Shem, name. So we say that Abraham brought Isaac to the academy of Shem, son of Noah, that he should learn there the Torah. You can equally say he brought him to the academy of Shem, son of Noah, that he should learn Shem Torah. The Torah of Shem. And even though that Abraham himself was tremendously great in Torah, Abraham learned everything from Shem. So why does Isaac need to learn from Shem? Abraham already learned it. He can learn from his father. Abraham knew the entire Torah, just like Shem and Noah did. But for Shem, he was superior. That Shem had the ability to not only know the Torah, but to teach one how to learn the Torah. The methodology to learn the Torah. Shem had the ability to remove the complications and responsibilities of the world. To basically freeze time, freeze space, freeze reality, freeze nature. To let the Torah be like a womb of a woman. And then it goes on, this is the craft, is special craft. Shem was a craftsman who built the ark in the time of the flood. Shem now has the ability to impart to Isaac craftsmanship. The tools of learning. Not just learning. Anybody can go to even a Harvard lecture and get something from a top level class. The question is, do you want to just hear a lecture? Or do you want the tools to be able to learn how to learn? To know the real structure of the Torah, God, the world. Remember the word derech eretz, the way of the world, the way that wisdom works. Isaac went to learn a craft. To be a craftsman in the law, the learning, the wisdom. And not only for that reason. There were many people there. There were people there to speak with Isaac. And each one of them could speak and dwell in the Torah together. Thus, Shem's academy wasn't just a little shack built for Isaac. He had an entire yeshiva going. People were there. An academy of learning. And furthermore, a son is not fit to learn from his father, because he really won't fear his father that much. But a student will fear his teacher. It's for this reason that Esav didn't learn from the Torah of Shem. Esav went to a different academy of learning. Esav, is the son of Isaac, is going to learn from Isaac himself. Because Isaac feared Shem so much. And Shem told Isaac, Esav is not for my academy. This was actually the downfall of Esav. But it opened the door for Jacob, who was called a simple or innocent or pure wholesome man, Ish Tam in Hebrew. It paved the way that Shem handpicked Jacob to learn the Torah from Shem and Aver. That's a diversion. Now back to the text. And thus we see that there are many students amongst them, and Abraham gave over Isaac to the academy of Shem. And until now, Abraham wasn't able to do this, since Sarah didn't want to release her watch over Isaac. As we saw, Isaac was being weaned off of Sarah. Sarah guarded the home. She wanted the influence to be from her. As to be with Ishmael wasn't the time. There was an educational process going on. It wasn't the time of laughter like Isaac's name implies, the Yitzchak, the laugh. He was very precious to Sarah. After all, Sarah received the tradition from Shem on how to raise Isaac. Isaac is destined to go to the academy of Shem and Aver. Shem and Aver made that presence known at the get-together when Isaac was a baby. Sarah took it seriously. He put the fear of God into her, to the point that it was the terror or dread of Isaac. But now that they were in this place, Isaac could be left there to learn by Shem and Aver. And since that it was this pledge, that Abraham pledged to take Isaac to the academy of Shem and Aver, it's not good to go back on your pledge. Isaac was ready to go to study the real ways of the Torah from Shem and Aver. And thus, even though it was hard for Abraham to part with Isaac, therefore he did it according to what needed to be done. The forefathers were to go through the academy of Shem and Aver to make the entire Torah work. Shem sought after Abraham, as Shem saw that Abraham would give way to an Isaac. The rights of the priesthood, to go from Shem, to make what was called in the Torah a kingdom of priests, that Isaac is going to inherit. Isaac inherits this level, and this is why when he was bound in the binding of Isaac, he received that Torah, the priesthood, just as Abraham had received from Shem. Isaac receives from Abraham. Now there's two different versions of the story. One version is a certain level of Isaac went to Beersheba to learn from Shem. Yet another example is that Isaac went to the heavenly yeshiva or academy of Shem. The ancient tradition says that Shem has the power of elevation in his soul. The archangel Michael, the heavenly world, also exists as kind of a conduit through Shem. So when Isaac is being bound on the Temple Mount, it says, yet another text, some say the angels brought Isaac to this academy of Shem for 3 years. Now there was the academy maybe of Aver in Beersheba, but maybe there's yet another academy. And some say that the skin of his neck, the knife of Abraham went to the stalk of the neck, until Abraham slaughtered the ram in his place. And the angels took Isaac and brought him to the midst of the Garden of Eden, in order that he should be healed. Just like when Noah needed a healing in the ark as he was maimed by a lion, thus Isaac needed to be healed as well in the Garden of Eden. So on the Temple Mount, that level of Shem's presence, as Isaac reached the level of priest given over from Shem to Abraham to Isaac, the angels were able to take Isaac, at least that level of his soul, to the Garden of Eden above for 3 years, while Isaac began his formal education in this plane of existence in the academy of Shem and Aver in Beersheba. And he was there for 3 years until Eliezer brought him Rebekah as a wife. And this is how we say that Isaac went out to the field to pray. And in the time that Rebekah came to Isaac, then Isaac went out from the Garden of Eden. And they say that Isaac was praying in the field of the Holy Temple, in the Temple Mount Jerusalem. And he took her in the field. So now look what we have. How many academies of Shem and Aver are there? Already now we've explained that there's outside the land in Nineveh. Now we're saying there's an angelic realm on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Thus Jacob's dream, the ladder reaching the heavens of angels ascending and descending up and down. That's 2. Beersheba and Aver is 3. The Garden of Eden, where Shem is the head of the academy above. 4. And the city of Sfat, where the advanced academy of Shem exists. 5. And then we're going to say that there was actually 2 more. There were 2 more academies. The entire land of Israel becomes an academy of learning Torah. As when Jacob slept at the Temple Mount following the footsteps of Abraham and Isaac. Abraham with Shem at the Temple Mount. Isaac with the influence of Shem at the binding of Isaac. Jacob going from the academy of Aver and Beersheba, arriving at the Temple Mount, sleeping where the stones became one. And there's a miracle, 5 miracles happened to Jacob at the Temple Mount. One of them was the entire land of Israel folded up under his body, thereby making the entire land of Israel, the Holy Land, akin to a yeshiva academy of learning. As the essential place was that of Shem. And then Isaac himself started his own academy, where Esav was a student, as Shem had handpicked Jacob to be his student. Now we can understand when we go to another text, when we learn Jacob's saga, he left from his brother Esav. He ran from his life to go to the academy of learning. The Torah says, Jacob departed from Beersheba and went to Haran. Now let's backtrack 1 second. Abraham and Isaac were in Beersheba. They went to the academy of learning of Shem and Aver. Isaac went and studied. Isaac grew up, having learned the Torah of Shem and Aver. Jacob eventually is going to be born in Esav, but Jacob will be selected by Shem. As Jacob was in the academy of Aver in Beersheba, the beginning yeshiva, he leaves and he goes to Shem in Sfat in the north of Israel. When we look in the Hebrew words, Jacob went out from Beersheba, hinted in those 4 words in the commentaries of the Torah. Again, the end letters of Jacob from Beersheba spells the name Aver. And the beginning letters from Beersheba spells Shem. And the word from Beer, as in from Beersheba, implies the father, the academy of Isaac. Thus, once we have the family of Jacob, Esav, Isaac, Shem, and Aver, Jacob goes to learn the Torah from Shem and Aver. 2 different academies, one in Beersheba, one in Sfat. Esav learns from his father, Isaac. Next week we're going to get into the prophecy from Adam, how the whole world becomes an academy of learning, how Israel became the academy of learning from Jacob, and how Shem and Aver's Torah and tradition essentially fills the entire world. What do we come across today? Everyone says the Academy of Shem and Aver. What they don't realize is Shem and Aver is a way of Torah. It's an entire doctrine of belief, philosophy. Isaac's academy in the land, I believe Isaac stayed in Beersheba. And Isaac went, that's a good point. Isaac went around digging wells. Abraham dug wells. We're going to get to this point actually next week, but I'll bring it up now. Isaac dug wells, and the wells are water. The water rose to greet people. That's an analogy also to show a deeper truth that Isaac went around to influence Torah academies as well. Thus, there were academies of Isaac, which is a bit of a different perspective of Torah, with the understanding that one really must go through the academies of Shem and Aver first. Because when you go through Shem and Aver, you never lose Shem and Aver. It's a way of Torah for life. It's a tool for life. It's a craft. Just like any craftsman has a craft. Isaac thought that Esav was beyond the craft. Jacob understood that Shem and Aver's Torah is a craft the Torah will live forever by. Thus, Abraham learned from Shem and Aver. Isaac learned from Shem and Aver in multiple locations, showing the different levels of yeshiva or academy. Jacob then gives us the full spectrum of all the academies, and then Shem has the academy outside the land, so that the world will be filled with the Torah in the land, out of the land, fulfilling the doctrine of Adam, who decreed the Torah will be on the whole world, in conjunction with Moses' contribution to Torah, or development to the Torah, bringing down the Torah and its status today outside the land of Israel. Thus, now to finish off, how many levels of Torah institutions do we know of? There was Shem with his offspring Ashur outside the land. Jerusalem, the angelic yeshiva or academy. Sfat, the north of Israel, where Shem taught the Torah on a higher level. Beersheba, where Aver taught the Torah on a beginner level. The Garden of Eden, where Shem teaches the essential Torah. The land of Israel is filled with these wells of Isaac and Jacob. And the entire world is filled as the prophecy of Adam. Next week we'll have a chart explaining all the different levels of the yeshiva and the academies of Shem and Aver. And then we'll begin to understand the differences between Shem and Aver and their academies, and how going to the academy of Shem and Aver never stopped. The academy of Shem and Aver never stopped, and it continues to this day, side by side with the Torah of today. See you guys next week, and let's call this part 1. There's a lot more information to give over today. So the next week will be a conclusion and clarity with a chart explaining how we put the academies into practice. Thank you.